I am channeling the Lyran beings. The Lyran beings are voyagers, pioneers, and explorers. They are quite revolutionary in their thinking and expression. They are well integrated in many systems within this galaxy and within other galaxies. They are connected to ancient Egypt and Sirius, as well as Pleiades. They have a role to play in the ancient history of planet Earth. And they also share with the Pleiadians and the Sirians, as well as Earth, the Sachic record, omega star, an omega star, one of the largest that several systems, including the Lyran, including the Draco, including the Pleiadian, the Orion, the Sirian, among many who are connected to this massive Assachic record, and it is in their system or nearby their system. They have close access to it. The Lyran beings are quite playful. They take on the feline energy. They represent the fem body, feminine consciousness. They have a warrior practice that they shared with ancient Egypt, and this warrior practice is sensual and physical. They are very tapped into the physical body. They take care of the physical body, and they respect the third dimension. The Lyran beings enjoy their time on Earth, and they enjoy challenge. They see challenge as an opportunity to excel. They're quite fearless. They take on this fearless energy. And when the last golden age fell, a lot of Lyran beings left, and they traveled to Pleiades with other Pleiadians who left. And the Lyran beings are here. They are integrated in the society, the collective on planet Earth at this time. And you will recognize them through their creativity. They are quite creatively exuberant. Their creativity is quite colorful. There's a brilliancy to it. The creativity is quite dynamic and multifaceted, multidimensional, very multi-talented. And they are connected to the Native Americans, and they're connected to the rite of passage into manhood, into womanhood. They're a very virtuous civilization. Very virtuous. And their character, you can say their character is very important to them. So character development and education, educating their people, is very important. They have a lot of knowledge. They are considered students of the universe. They like to learn. They're very good at learning, and they collect a lot of information that's from other systems, other dimensions, and planets, and they express it through their art. They're very they have a diversity within their culture. Their culture is quite diverse, but they stick with their team. They are very tribal, and they stay with their tribe. They are very strong when they're with their tribe, and they have a very deep bond with their soul tribe. And they go in a unit to these different regions of space time, and these bonds are very powerful. The spiritual bonds they have with their soul family is very powerful, because in their rite of passage into manhood, into womanhood, they go through these initiations that can be quite challenging. The initiations are to break through the limits of the physical body so that they can connect with the infinite body and the expansive body. They are expanders of consciousness. They are movers and shakers. They are very expansive in the way that they feel, and they're not fearful of emotions. They're quite emotionally stable and quite emotionally grounded. The Lyran beings, in the face of challenge, in the face of collapse, they rebuild, and they rebuild more efficiently. The Lyran beings, they share knowledge on renewable energy because that is one of their technologies that they have on their planet, renewable energy that's sustainable. And they have shared this with other systems as well, and they share that here on planet Earth, and they've shared it in the past in ancient Egypt. There has been conflicts in ancient Egypt because of the ideology of the Lyran being seemed too revolutionary to this particular civilization that was developing during this ancient Egyptian matriarchal timeline. And there was a conflict over leadership and over character, very pride. They came in during the Leo age in the thousands of years ago, like 13,000 years ago. And they have been here persistently for a very long time, before this planet was even colonized, you could see, or the human species began to develop on Earth. They have interactions with Mars when Mars was the primary planet millions of years ago, and they very much shared their culture as well as their ideology, and Mars became known as a fearless planet of the warrior, and as well as the planet of the feeler, the fire. They're very passionate and they have a very strong love frequency, and they can be very competitive, but they have learned to use their competition for creativity rather than for destruction and for belittlement. They have learned many lessons throughout their time. They're very an old system. They have very old system. Their evolution is significantly more than the human species, and even they kind of going hand in hand with the Pleiadians, and their features are, we call the feline features, but there are different types of species of this, just like there are different types of human species throughout time. There's different types of Lyran beings. We talk about the feline features. There's different types, and even in ancient Egypt, they too met the different types of species in the Lyran system, because there are different planets. There's not just one planet, and these different planets, they transform the species in different ways according to the demand of that particular planet. They're very drawn to the planet Jupiter in this particular system. They're drawn to the planet Jupiter because they have a activated radiant body. They have an activated radiant body. They have an activated heart chakra, meaning they have leadership. They're considered leaders, and they have come to Earth. And the conflict during this ancient Egyptian time was because of their leadership. They were seen too revolutionary, considered liberal, you could say. Were considered liberal during a changing time where separation was occurring. They don't really participate in separation they have, and that led to major destruction for them in that time. That time period led to destruction due to competitive ways. but they've learned to use the fire of their passion and their, their expansive heart frequency to create a culture that is truly mesmerizing. Their culture, it's very similar to Native American and many cultures in the ancient past, even today, that have a similar resonance to Native American, which are many. Um, they have a they have a very feminine presence, but they have a very fierce masculine, a masculine leadership. They are builders, but their building sort of technique is our architecture design is sacred geometry. They use a lot of the Octorian light language, Octorian blueprints for their architectural designs. The sacred geometry. They're very close with the crystals and the stones, and shells. Again, they're very sensual, they're very grounded. They don't participate in a high amount of technology, like they don't participate in that. Their technology is efficient, but they have more renewable energy, meaning there's not much dirty energy and not much dirty electromagnetic sort of energy that they have in their planets. They actually chose to downgrade their technology at a point of their evolution thousands of years ago, in order to create a more sustainable life, because the fertility was going down due to the electromagnetic pollution that was occurring during a sort of a difficult time in their history. So they decided to downgrade their technology and focus on renewable energy. They are very masterful in the realm of astral travel, and they're definitely masterful in um, the sun. They have knowledge on the sun and how to use the sun as like a portal, or how to gain energy from the sun for long travel, for long travel, black holes. They definitely are very knowledgeable about space travel, efficient space travel that is of renewable energy using the sun. So they have some sort of knowledge on the sun. I'm hearing the word relativity is something that they are aware of. They're very metaphysical in nature, very, very metaphysical, and they've shared these metaphysics with the ancient Egyptians. They also have writing, symbolic writing, and again, they're very theatrical, and they very advanced in their self-expression. They have multiple languages that they speak, and again, they have, I see 4 planets, a new planet that they recently found. Again, this could be recent as thousands of years, because what is transmitted and received from Earth, it takes a long time, right? For that message to be received. So what is considered now could be thousands of years actually in the past. So they have a deep metaphysical, they have a what I call spiritual metaphysics that they participate in, which is kind of similar to ancient Egyptian lucid dreaming, in how they're able to channel information from the universe, such as scientific theory, how they're able to channel, um, they're able to channel light codes. They're into light codes and like light activations. So they're definitely tapped into frequencies. They're very sensitized to frequencies, to higher energy, and their home environment, or their community, or what we would call like a city state is there's a high frequency, or there's a lot of there's a sound, there's like a sound current throughout the city, the community, even the planet. There's a sound current that creates this wave of energy, very similar to the pyramids, and they actually have pyramids on their planets. But they're basically like Stonehenge, they're conductors of energy. And they channel that energy throughout the atmosphere. Kind of when we think of towers, energy towers, or when we think of the phone lines, except it's a wireless energy that they use, and that they've shared this knowledge with Earth. But this knowledge is something multiple planets have. It's not just Lyran civilization, there's also many others. It's kind of a universal practice. It's a universal truth that many people are aware of. But some civilizations don't use this technology, and they have chosen more of electromagnetically polluted technology, and that's why they have lost their touch with the Earth or their planet. And a lot of the planets have electromagnetic pollution and have like tears in their ozone layer, and have what we call space sickness. Space sickness that causes infertility, toxicity, and also causes mutation to the DNA, and then over time that creates sort of the species begins to it begins to change, right? The features become mutated and less physical. You lose that physical sort of appearance, that physical chi, that physical life force. There are many like gray aliens, other aliens that have lost that sort of physical, that life force, because of the electromagnetic pollution. But they did not choose that path as other many species, many other alien kind of civilizations. They're not too, when it comes to the Draco beings, they're not too, they have sort of agreements with them, but they're not too, there has been a conflict with them, and this has been over integrity. And both of these sort of species of alien can be very competitive, and can, have this sort of be domineering, we'll say, controlling these type of things. But the agenda of the Lyran beings has always been to spread culture. They like to spread culture, while the Draco, the agenda has been more so there's sort of like a propaganda I'm hearing about that. They have created rifts in some ways with other sort of civilizations of other sort of alien groups. They've created some sort of rifts due to their sort of propaganda that they have kind of spread throughout to different galactic regions, we'll say. When it comes to the sort of taking of energy from other places, from other planets, and taking it, it seems almost it's not legitimate. I'm hearing that, taking energy, organic material, and it's not legitimate for sort of experiments that are not legitimate. I'm hearing that. But the Lyran beings have quite a very peaceful and quite expressive, very very cheerful culture and just lifestyle. They are very respectful to the planets that they go to. A lot of these beings are very respectful of nature. You will find that they have a Taurus energy. The Lyran beings, whenever they come to the planet, they carry with them this Taurus frequency, this Taurus energy, as well as this Leo energy, where the Taurus in them, they have this sort of high respect, this self-respect, and they're not so easily, they have a very strong magnetic field, an aura. So a lot of these Lyran beings have a very strong aura. They're not so easily wounded or winded, I want to say, by different planets. They're very adaptable. They're like chameleons. They can adapt quite easily to the planets that they go to. Um, they adapt quite smoothly into different cultures because they're very, think of it like a person who can speak multiple languages, right? They have multiple languages. They can, their mind is very equipped for different types of cultures. You know, they don't really get culture shock. That's not something that they experience when it comes to other places. And they're trained in sort of a competitive way to kind of fight, right? That's why they came to Mars, because the fighting spirit, they have a very fighting spirit. They have a very strong life force, and they have these qualities that you will notice of determination, perseverance, also softness. They're very soft when it comes to their heart, very compassionate, but they're very can be very direct and can be very bold, and they have a sense of pride when it comes to their integrity and where they come from and who they are and what they represent. They can have a pride to it, and that has caused some conflict in some some periods of time on Earth when Earth is not when Earth is trying to create separation, because these people are these beings have a strong individuality, but they also have a strong union with the tribe, meaning they respect the individuality, but they also understand the purposefulness of each social group and each structure that is in the bigger picture. So they definitely have a strong individuality, where they really spend a lot of time getting to know themselves, and they really focus on talents and gifts and really educate their people on multiple languages, multiple cultures, multiple multiple expressions, multiple streams of thought, like a Sagittarius type of practice, like a Jupiter Sagittarius practice. But they are they have the individuality like we have, but they also have a sense of union. They also have a very we can think of like the word communism, which is something not too favorable, because government is seen as dictator and tyranny type of thing, right? But this kind of communism, what I'm seeing as people really do trust each other, even trust the leaders, is because everybody is included in, when it comes to their population. They don't overpopulate because they have several like planets in their systems, which could be multiple. I'm just seeing they know how to travel from one system to the next system, but it's all in like nearby location. They're one of the oldest systems, so their systems, their star, there's a sort of a dying star that actually the ingredients to this dying star actually created the Earth, the system of the Earth, this dying star that that they originally were birthed from, kind of created the system that would lead into the Earth system that we have today. So when it comes to their social structure, they very much have a Sagittarius vibe, where they have a strong sort of teacher vibe. They very much value their teachers, and they value education, and that's why they're considered voyagers and pioneers, and they travel, and they're considered, they value education. And when they come to Earth, and when they're here, you will see them, they love to learn new things. They're not afraid to learn new things, kind of like risk takers. But they do have a strong prosperity vortex, or prosperity mindset, or prosperity sort of Jupiter status, we'll say. Very much a Jupiter status, because they're builders. These beings are physical. They are builders. So where they go, they like to build and they like to build consciousness of that particular civilization. So they came to Earth during the ancient Egyptian time. They also came, that was a pivotal point. This ancient Egyptian matriarchal time was a pivotal point when these pyramids were first originally established. About 60,000 years ago or so. It was a very pivotal point. Even before that, it took time to establish. But there was this sort of great celebration, or this great communion between Earth and these other sort of, I call seafaring sort of civilizations, groups of ETs type of thing. There was a major celebration, and a lot of beings came to Earth in this great sort of, there was this great intermingling of different alien species at one point on Earth, but then that ended quite shortly, within like 500 years. It ended because of the conflicts among particular groups of ETs, and then there was this sort of collapse that happened to the human species, that would later lead into this Anunnaki type of what we know as today's sort of timeline of history, influence, became the sort of primary leaders of planet Earth, or claimed that position. There was also, I'm seeing Star Wars type of activity, when I think there was some sort of fighting going on when it came to the sort of leadership, or the sort of the sort of primary control on this planet. And I think the Anunnaki kind of were one of the oldest to kind of come to this sort of planet before even there was before there was even a single human species. They were here to come to planet Earth to I'm seeing the sort of material like gold for their own planet, to heal their own planet, to help stabilize their planet's atmosphere. I'm seeing that. So also for their technology as well. For their particular technology, they would mine gold, and also they would search for particular like asteroid or material, something like that, that they would sort of look for, particular materials that they would find in the earth, organic materials that maybe their planet needed. So they had a sort of conversation with this particular other group, that also, the Anunnaki, the Lyran beings, there's a kind of there's a group. They're part of a group, you could say. It's like they're a part of a group where they have a similar practice, or similar spirituality, or similar kind of culture background, you could say. Like they were almost raised together, or they were raised by the same parents, or something like that. But the Lyran beings, they come here for self-expression. They come to Earth because Earth has a very heartfelt frequency that it kind of transmits out into the cosmos. And this heart frequency is something that's very compatible with who they are and what they really, desire to experience. Because they're about experience, they're about movement, they're about artistry and art and renaissance and sexuality and sacredness, sacred sexuality and sacred art, that just sacred geometry. They're very well equipped in these areas. They don't carry much with them. They're not I would say they don't carry a lot of baggage. Like they kind of come real, like, you know, raw and real wherever they go. All they really carry with them is the Sachic record. They don't really carry much with them. They're kind of very they seem very kind of simple, but yet they're so complex because their Sachic record is so deep because of their education. But really, all they really desire to gain is like virtue. They want craftsmanship, they want charactership. They do enjoy recognition in the form of they want to celebrate, right? They want to celebrate, and they want to bring joy to the planet and to their own people. But ultimately, they gain energy through experience. So that's why they move. They're a movement, a force to be reckoned with, like a fire. Um, they clear a lot of karma where they go. They know how to clear karma. They teach people or civilizations how to clear karma. They've actually taught or teach past tense, present tense, future tense, who knows. They teach other sort of aliens how to clear their karma, and clear their karma within their ancestral line, their bloodline. They know a lot about the bloodline because their lineage is so deep, and they understand the lineage. The lineage is something that comes from them, something that they instilled within the ancient Egyptians about how important it is you have a lineage, how spiritually important it is you have a lineage, because it protects you and it gives you this sort of prosperity that is unshakable, which is actually very important to educate each generation on the virtues of the lineage. So that's something they've instilled. Again, you know, the clearing of the karma, the bloodline, you know, they're very much about the bloodline. You know, they choose very wisely their mates. They choose only within their soul group. They don't really go outside their soul group. They're very sort of particular about their mates, because they understand, you know, the bloodline, and they really want to create lineage. Very similar to the Syrian sort of beings. They have that again. But these beings, they are culture. So they gain a lot of prosperity through their cultural influence, you could say, or their artistry or their creativity, that type of thing. Because again, they're builders. They like to create, like a Leo. They're very, very highly creative and instinctual. So they're very instinctual. You know, they're sensual. They can tap into the planet, and they're very earthy, meaning they have this very earthy element to them, also this fire element to them. They have a lot of, they're considered powerhouse. They're considered a pranic. They have a high pranic caliber. So they have a high they have a deep sort of breath to them. They have a very sort of big, expansive prana body, you could say. But they're considered the judges, kind of similar to the Anunnaki are considered the judges. They're also considered judges because of the integrity. They are very bold and fearless, so they'll tell you like it is. Right? They will tell it like it is. And that's why they have this sort of, when you think of Leo, you think of kind of the age of king and queen. They kind of have that sort of presence of the king and the queen, the goddess and the god type of thing. They kind of invited in these ideas, but they too went through a prideful period that nearly destroyed themselves, and you know, created separation that was very painful and took many hundreds, probably, you know, 500 years to actually recover from the trauma of that particular period of time. Again, they're very old, much older than us as human beings. The golden ages they've entered through is way more, I mean, can't even be compared. But they, You know, they've been around the block, so they're considered very wise old soul. They're considered very, very elderly. They're considered very old soul, even to this planet, even to ancient Egypt. Even in the future, they'll seem like that. But they're not. They're not this futuristic sort of technology consumed world. They don't really value the technology the way we do and the way other AETs do. They're not obsessed with technology. They're really concerned about community, and they're concerned about humanity, or they're concerned about the sort of the spiritual evolution. They have mastered the technology world, you know, thousands of years ago. They're not interested in the way we are, you know, so obsessed with it. They've been there, done that. They are more interested in the spiritual evolution of their people through technology, not using technology as a way to kind of not be physical and to end jobs and you know, block people from actually being virtuous and building up their character. They see if technology isn't for character development, they're not going to use that. So they have like a ban or a block in that kind of way towards technology, because they're focused on character development. Again, they have this sort of king queen type of energy, but they've evolved beyond this type of separation that we've had in our medieval Romanesque period. That was a memory from this matriarchal queendom, we'll say, of the Leo age, thousands of years ago, like 13,000, 22,000 years ago, in a higher dimension of Earth. They are functioning in a higher dimension, a higher frequency. Again, they are very expressive. You will recognize their creativity, because it will be very colorful. It'll be very bright. It will be like a sort of lucid dream. It will be very much like an astral travel kind of voyage. It will be very pioneering, very futuristic. It will be very, there will be a high quality, a high craftsmanship, very visionary type of quality of the mind. When it comes to the mind, they work on the minds. They really, I hear chanting. They do chant, and they sound. They work a lot with sound current. This sound. They work a lot with the sound current. So you'll hear these shifting of sounds throughout the day. They also work with organic sounds, like sounds of planets, sounds of trees, sounds of the sun, sounds of the moons that they have, sounds of the heart beats. They work a lot with sounds as a way to tune the vessel to higher vibrations. And I'm seeing these deer people, the Lyran beings. Again, there's like a sort of deer people. I've seen them before, only once. They also are connected to them. These are very peaceful civilizations, by the way, very benevolent. They're very nonchalant. They're not, there's not a propaganda about them. They are very old, like I said. It's like when you get a certain age and, you know, you've been around the block, you've been there, done that, you kind of grow up, and you're no longer just kind of doing it for the hell of it. You're doing it because you actually want to do something meaningful now, not just, you know, because just, you know, I'm just gonna do it because, if, you know, like immaturely. So, but they have gone through like Star Wars type of situations, like warfare. They've definitely gone through several different warfare, with Draco, and even with Anunnaki. They were revolting against them at one point. Where they have allies with Pleiades, for sure. There's a very strong ally with Pleiades, but there really is no separation. That's a kind of cosmic law, you could say, that there will not be separation among groups. There will not be division. There will not be like, you know, we are at war with you type of thing. That's kind of a cosmic law to really keep the balance. But there will be friction, because every species of alien or whatnot is evolving differently. So they're not, some groups of beings are a lot less mature when it comes to technology than others. So there's a cosmic law about separation and the sort of, that kind of banding of it, but there's also respect for there's different evolutions that are going on, and it's like some races of beings have to go through the downfall, have to go through extinction or collapse or breakdown, because that's the only way that they're going to grow, right? And older civilizations understand that because they went through the same thing, and that's how they're able to learn their lessons. So there's a respect for beings who are learning their lessons, and sometimes you do have to go through the shadow of your mistakes to learn your lessons, and there is a kind of compassion for that. Even when they see mass pain or trauma within a bloodline or within a species, they understand that this about learning the lesson. They cannot interfere. They cannot just erase the trauma of 500 years out of the human species, for example, because it's not fair, and the humans will never learn their lesson, and therefore they will keep just falling back into the same patterns in a cyclical, never-ending cycle. So with the human species, the way that the Lyran beings sort of help the human species recover from trauma and shame of a very long, seeming very, centuries, seeming thousands of years, is through clearing of the karma. They work with clearing the karma. So they use the flame. There's a lot about the white flame of the heart to clear the karma within their own, within the body, within the own body's DNA and memory. So they work with a lot of the memories of the body. So on their planet, they have a lot of Assachic record, sort of shamanistic knowledge on the memory body and healing the memory body. Because again, they're warriors, they're competitors, they have gone through war, so they have experiences of trauma in the memory body, which is they heal that through like self-hypnosis. They work a lot with self-hypnosis. They work a lot with like lucid dreaming, past life regression. They work a lot with that sort of hypnotic state. Like I'm seeing the cobra snake. They work with that sort of rattle sound, or that sort of snaking, hypnotic state to really heal. They also work with a lot of trauma release. There's a lot of trauma release that they practice in their own civilization as a way to, balance their chakras, and use their energy efficiently. So a lot of their self-expression has to do with therapy. So physical therapy, they're really into dance therapy, movement therapy, and they have shared this with humans, and they've experienced this with humans as Africans, indigenous people in general in many places. They use movement, they use celestial communication through movement, and they're kind of shamanistic perspective, you could say, in the ancient Egyptian is very much, they use sound like humming and frequency and these sort of chantings to get these altered states of consciousness, which ancient Egyptians are known in this patriarchal sort of cusp period to be very educated in. And they heal a lot of the memory body. They work with the memory body because they souls collect memory, and the memories can become blockages to the present, and they understand that, and they are about liberating. They're very liberal. They're about really liberating these memory body, with the memory body. So they work a lot with the dance movement, with the pranic breath, the sexual energy, like sexual drive. They have a high sexual drive. They work with that to really heal the memory body, because it can be blockages, and they've seen themselves and they've seen other species of human and other species of alien they've blocked because of their memory body. So they work a lot with the memory body and the trauma release through their many modalities that are all physical. They all have a lot of physical modalities. They know how to charge their body. They work a lot with the raising the Kundalini. They know how to charge the body. They actually, their body, their aura, these beings are, I would say they're tall. I would say like a female, a male, a female's probably like 6 foot, a male could be like 6'5", like average, right? I think an average human, a female is like 5'2", and an average male is maybe what, like 5'10", 6 foot, maybe 6'1", right? Average, right? But an average woman, height wise, I can see it like being maybe 6'2", right? Or 6'1" or 6, but then a man is like 6'5", like they definitely have this height to them. They're not small. They have this muscular, they're also very fit looking, lean, very kind of fit. They have a very powerful presence. Like they work on personal power in utero. So they have a very strong personal power, very intimidating looking, very kind of, very commanding sort of presence, alluring presence. But they, again, we think of the goddess, right? There's this sort of this whole programming that we have on this planet about goddess and the king and the queen, that kind of thing. You know, the goddess is different from the god, right? God has many programs attached to it. Actually, God has so many programs attached to it from so many different agendas. People are quite confused by it until they really find union within their own selves with it. But the goddess it's a totally different frequency than the word God. The goddess is the femme consciousness. It's very different from when we think of God. The goddess actually represents the fertile ground. It's like the fertile grail, the you know, like the holy grail type of thing. It represents the creative life force, the goddess, that men have it as well. Like men, they would chant to their own inner goddess, which would be their kundalini raising, like my goddess is, you know, I raise my goddess type of thing. And they would be talking about the raising of the kundalini, which is the fire desire, the creative expression. So their aura would be like 30 feet, 50 feet, maybe 60 feet. Like they have massive auras that they've developed, again, through the bloodline. And, you know, they have had people try, you know, in their war type of thing, destroy them and kind of thing like that. But they're considered very not elderly, but they're considered like elders, very sort of ancient. They have this sort of marigold energy, gold energy to their sort of arc line, to their sort of aura. They also have this deep blue energy, and this sort of lavender, sort of indigo. They also have this indigo energy. But they also oversee star seeds, like guardians of these type of children. They kind of watch over new souls, like protectors. They're very much protectors, guardians, because they're very, they have a lot of discernment. They will tell you like it is. And if somebody's fucking with you, they will come at you, right? So these Lyran beings, especially the council, I'm hearing the council of 5. So the number 5, numerology says the number 5 is movement, power, activation, instinct, initiation. So they're definitely, the council of 5 is considered the elite, like the global elite. The sort of, they have multiple systems. Maybe they have 5 systems that they connected to. This one omega sun, I'm talking about maybe like, I don't know, significant times more our own sun. Even the sun of Pleiades is significantly larger than our own, in the Sirius, as we know, significantly. But this star is very massive magnetic pool in the 5 systems. But it's also like a black hole. So I don't know if it's dying or if it's dead already. I don't know what that is, but it's almost like a star, but it's like a black hole as well. Like, but it's like a Sachik record. So very interesting. So these These beings, these Lyran beings, again, you can call upon them and you will feel their presence. They have this sort of protective presence. Again, they have this shamanistic kind of journey. They're on a journey, right? When you think of the shaman, you think of the shamans on a journey, right? The shaman is revolutionary, naturally, like a rebel kind of thing, and they bring change and liberate the sort of people who are very limited and broken and traumatized. And that's very much what they do. They work a lot with the children, the young energy, the new souls. They also work with fertility. They're kind of considered fertility deities, as we know, the feline energy. Because they know a lot about fertility. Their practice of bearing children is very different. They actually do get pregnant. They don't do no what do you call it? What is it? Babies in laboratories. They don't really do that. They actually prefer to have like home births. They don't really like our birth system with the hospital thing. They don't do that themselves, even though they're much older evolution wise. They do give birth. They don't do the babies in the little sacks in the spaceship type of thing. They do have sexual they do the sexual energy, the merging. They still do that. That's actually very important to have that in your civilization. It's very important to have that sort of sexual energy. Some aliens they can't do that, right? Or they're very limited on how procreation, because of the toxicities. They sort of how uprooted and ungrounded a lot of aliens can be, but they are not. They're very grounded. So again, they work with the planet Mars, or have been living on Mars that millions of years ago, because Mars was a planet originally, kind of with the Lyran beings, as they found the system. But this system is very special. So of course, other beings have found the system as well. The Earth is actually very, very special. The Earth is very, very special in this galactic confederation, you could say. Very, very special, this Earth is, because of the position it's in. It's in a very good position. Very, very good position. And also the human species is, again, the DNA is much older than the planet itself. The human DNA is older than Earth. And it comes from other multiple species that have kind of mixed in their DNA, or has traveled through many pools of DNA throughout time, ancient time, much ancient time, like before this Earth was even, had a tree, or even had water, maybe, right? The Lyran beings, they give birth. They actually enjoy giving birth, and they know how to give birth. They practice the art of giving birth. They have very wide hips. They work a lot with the hips, like their hips. They got a lot of, hips swinging type of thing. The women, the women are very, queen of matriarchal time. They're revered and respected women. They're considered the goddess. They hold the goddess frequency of the planet, which is considered the highest frequency of the Lyran being planet, you could say. The goddess frequency is considered highest frequency, even higher than what we call the word God. And again, goddess is not just women, it's the femme consciousness. It's about the feminine gift, right, of fertility and creativity and personal power and charisma and art and renaissance, these type of things. And these women, they have this sort of this self-respect, very different from the Syrian self-respect. These women, they were considered they were looked at as very tapped into themselves, very whole within themselves. There's a lot of spiritual fulfillment within this women group. The women were very close with each other, and they're very close with each other. They respect each other regardless of diversity. I mean, you could be a completely different looking alien, but there is this sort of respect among these group of women. There's an elite group of women that they have on this planet, this civilization. They're considered the wise ones. They're considered the high priestesses, high psychics type of thing. And they're the ones that really make judgment calls about, wars or treaties or agreements or just changes that happen on the planet, like changes just in general, major changes. They really make the final call, because some major changes you have to let happen on, like Earth, for example. We have to go through certain changes. We have to. It's a part of us balancing out. Like, we can't just, oh, it's hard, let's just, try to jump around it. It's like, no, you have to go through these certain changes. And they understand that. So these council of women, they know that these certain changes can be very vigorous, but they have this sort of they're very generous with the help that they do give to Earth. Cosmically, they give transmissions. They even share kind of knowledge, like freely sometimes, many times. But there's like a statue. I feel like there's a statue of in ancient Egypt. I'm thinking of the Sphinx on Mars and Earth. I'm thinking of it as a kind of a mirror reflection of the sort of sister planets of Mars and Earth. And there's also a Sphinx on the Lyran planets as well, and there's a Sphinx in Sirius as well. It's kind of like a unification or union. It's like a symbol of where we come from, and a symbol of our respect for our bloodline and our unified bloodline that isn't just like black, you're black, white, you're black. It's like, no, you're white and black. There's a sort of bloodline that's unified. It's like there's a mixing going on this planet, and that's the same thing that happened in the Lyran being with the Syrian and Pleiadian and the human and Anunnaki. Like, there's this kind of when you talk about being ambiguous ethnically, that's what the Sphinx can represent. There's a sort of ambiguity about the bloodline. It's an act of union, and that's why being ethnically ambiguous can be very revolutionary at this time, because we're still in separation. So if you're black, white, Asian, as well as Hispanic, that could be seen as you're a rebel, because separation is about keeping these type of groups of people divided so that they never come together, so that they never form a subgroup becomes a big group, right? The separation is keeping people in these little groups and keeping them controlled. But when everyone's a big group, because everyone is sharing the same bloodline, that is the kind of that's union. That's a union right there, right? That is union. Also, the scrolls of Lemuria, they have scrolls of Lemuria that they've held when Lemuria, there was a major continental shift. The axis of the poles shifted, and then Lemuria continent was just erased, or not erased, it just moved, like very dramatically, like ice, like overnight type of thing. And a lot of beings left before that happened, because the catastrophe, the shifting already started to happen with the floods that were coming in from everywhere. So they have a lot of scrolls from Lemuria of human excellence. There's a lot of excellent humans in Lemuria, a lot of excellent that occurred during that time. Like, it was a major renaissance of art and poetry, and in dance, and just a beautiful experience. It's like astrology. I mean, this human species, this civilization, they really came in had a very just beautiful time, in beautiful time, very, a lot of wisdom, they a lot of spiritual fulfillment, wish fulfillment, a lot of harmony that they were able to maintain for like 500 years, 1,000 years, a longer period than Atlantis. I think Atlantis ended sometime. Um, the Lyran beings have an integration in many of the major golden ages. They're really recognized during the golden ages. That's when you really get to see the Lyran beings. Really, that's when they really show up and you're aware of them, because the golden ages represent like the fifth dimension of consciousness, and that's where they really reside. They 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 express the physical life force, but they really come into their spiritual empowerment in the fifth dimension of themselves. So they're a lot about power, the using of the power within their own physical body to create magic. So sexual magic, these type of things. Now that can be distorted, right? But the purity of these beings, they really remain true to their origins. They don't really try to stray, and if they do, their soul team will help them, because they're very telepathically connected to their soul team, energetically, spiritually. They're very well connected, and even when they feel separation and division, because they're forced into something, or controlled, or manipulated, or distorted, or mass propaganda, and they're losing their way, right? They have this strong sense of self, we'll say. They have a strong sense of self, like, no, I will succeed, like that kind of vibe. They have a strong sense of self, which is what Pleiadians admire about them, but they do have a sense of ego. In the Leo age, the ego was something that was a little bit too lavishing, right? A little bit too over the top, right? In the recognition, because they love to be, recognized, and, hear me, and I am that, I am, that's the mantra, I am, right? I am that I am, that's the mantra of them. I am this powerful being, that you could feel that there are many people who are in that I am this powerful being, and they can get to ego, where they think they're the God, and people need to bow down to them, right? And that's the lack of humility. That is when the Lyran beings, they became very imbalanced. They didn't have the lesson of humility, right? So they need to learn that, or relearn it. So the humility of the Lyran beings really gives them a sort of their recognition that they have for themselves, individuality, their sort of sharing of each other. It's very supportive in the way that the creative expression. They like to have the synergy. They like to see not just themselves, but the other sort of Lyran beings coming into their sort of personal power, because they understand that you can't just hold the vibration of a civilization by yourself. Like, there's no way. You need the whole people doing. So they're about the whole. We are about the pieces. We're about, like, just keep the pieces, some pieces together, and just let all the other pieces just be scattered and lost and broken and poor, right? Poor quality, right? So it's almost like there's like you have like this gold in a motel. It's like, what is that going to do, right? Rather than having more of a standard, higher standard of, interacting with people, which Earth is considered having a low standard in the way we interact with other people. We're very timid and scared of each other, and our neighbors are considered our enemies because of the medieval time that we went through, which basically made us all believe that our neighbor is going to cut our head off, right? Our neighbor is going to steal our horses, going to tell on us and we're going to die, whatever it is. Um, um, See what else that they would like to channel through me. I'm hearing move mountains. So they're really into the idea of moving mountains, like the chanting, the move mountains. They also could be living in the mountains. Like I'm seeing a snow leopard. I'm seeing a snow leopard, like a white snow leopard. I'm seeing a snow. So that could be a sort of a symbol for their species or a symbol for their civilization. The snow leopard seems significant, and the mountain seems significant as well. The snowy mountain. They may even prefer living in the mountains, or do live in the mountains. I see them wearing thick fur coats, maybe leopard coats, but they're respectful. They work with the preservation of the snow leopard. I feel like there's some sort of extinction going on. The snow leopard may actually come from their planet. They have a deep sort of desire to work with the snow leopard to preserve them, help them from not extincting. I'm also hearing waterfall. They use a lot of waterfall as renewable energy. I see they have massive waterfalls on their planet. Massive, like Niagara Falls, but maybe, massive, in many areas. And they use waterfall as their renewable energy to energize their homes, their communities, their city-state. So massive. They say we will have that in the future as well. We will harness the waterfall to create more clean energy, clean electromagnetic energy. We need clean energy. There's a lot of dirty energy. So we talked about the sound current. They have a very profound sound current. They work a lot with sound therapy, light therapy. They work with that as like a sort of healing practice, a healing modality. Farming, they have a sort of I would say a vegan for sort of farming type of thing. I don't feel like they're, I don't see them very much as meat eaters, because I feel like they have a certain chi. They have a certain high chi, and I feel like this high chi they wouldn't be able to have if they ate meat. I think it's about this chi. There's something about the chi of the digestive system. When you eat meat, it actually lowers the chi amount. So I'm looking at my navel and I'm seeing like a chi, like a sun basically, like a big chi ball. And I'm seeing when you eat meat, it actually depletes the chi ball at the navel or at the gut or at the solar plexus. So they don't eat meat because it's sort of their mojo, I guess. Something about it kind of takes away from their energy. So I'm seeing carrots. So I feel like they have a love for carrots. It's something that seems, they use it for a lot of medicine for the digestive system and the chi of the chi ball, the digestive system. The carrots. With the mojo. They work a lot with the mojo, the ojus. They work with a lot of the vagina, the vagina nerves, the sex nerves. They work a lot with the nervous system, the vagus nerves, the life nerve. sciatic nerve. I mean, they work a lot with the nervous system in their own physical body. So their nervous system is considered really well, like, you know, their nervous system is considered very, very refined. Again, with the raising the kundalini, their nervous system is very strong, and that's why they're able to travel to different planets. And because they have a strong nervous system, they have a strong aura, so they can go to very dense realities and still maintain their the original dignity of the aura and the psyche. I'm seeing the psyche like a projection screen. So I feel like they know how to project their energy into different places, like astral traveling. But they really work a lot in the female group. The female, I'm seeing with lionesses, they work a lot on the female group. There's a strong female elite group, or there's a strong female presence. You know, females that the males very much support this type of this society structure that's different. I feel like they don't have a matriarchal society, they have both. So they have king, they have queen, but the king queen is seen through the eyes of the goddess, which is not solely the queen, it's both of the male and the female. The goddess is considered the union of the two. So they really work a lot on the like sexual union. They work on union and social union. They work a lot on like you know, kind of understanding both. They want to understand both the male and the female. So they have a lot of deep sexual practices. A lot of, when I mean sexual, they have a lot of deep creative practices. They have a lot of deep a deep theology about male and female. They also have a deep even like they have like a deep understanding of the psyche of a man and a psyche of a woman. They understand the psyche of a man to be the psyche of a man is, it develops through the psyche of a woman. They're saying the psyche of the woman actually gives the man his psyche. It advances through the woman and through the you can say the goddess energy. And the psyche of a man, it needs the psyche of a woman. The psyche of a woman needs knowledge to develop. Knowledge of the universe, you could say, or knowledge of creativity to develop. The psyche of a man is matured through the knowledge the women gather to them, and in their sensual, fertile energy. It's almost like the men can smell when the women are in heat, or not when the women are creating, that when they're in that goddess frequency, or when they're, you know, in that knowledge of them, the personal power. These men they're like drawn to them very profoundly, because their psyche needs that type of creative energy, or needs that type of life force to really feel their life force. But that's, I mean, I feel like I could go, I mean, it's a civilization, so it's so dynamic. I mean, you could, you know, talk for 8 hours and still not even get the fullness of the civilization, because it's so full, and it's so ancient, it's so old soul, right? A lot of old souls are Lyran beings. We think of Pleiadians, they're younger souls compared to these Lyran beings, but the Pleiadians have a respect because the Lyran beings have been through things. Like, they have been through war and fights, and, you know, they have lost their integrity. They have, you know, they have lost their, you know, their civilization, the world, to, you know, destruction. And even Mars, I feel like they were here on Mars when Mars basically had a nuclear, you know, experience that destroyed the life on Mars. So they have been around and seen trauma, but they also know how to heal trauma. But they remain close to their tribe, they remain close to their soul, they vibrate the cosmos. They remain close to their soul by being respectful to the animals. They remain close to their soul by chanting. They remain close to the soul. And they also work with monolithic structures like stone hedges. They work with sacred geometry. They work with monolithic structures as a way to create a ritual, a place of ritual, but also a place of cosmic mapping. They make cosmic mapping through monolithic structures and sort of geographic positions that mirror the cosmos. They do that. They're very earthy, so what they do is very earthy. Like, again, they're into like the stone, they're into crystal, they're into metal, or they're into very earthy experience. So they're not into a lot of this technology. They're really about culture, and they're really about experience, and they're really about character development. They're really about a spiritual ascension than separation, or about I win and you lose. They don't really play that game anymore. They used to play the game of I win, you lose. They don't play that game anymore. They're not about I win, you lose. They're really about they're willing to compromise, and they're willing to I feel like they've had to surrender their ego many times. And now they kind of understand what it means to surrender the ego to the soul, and what it means to have the soul and the ego as one. That's their lesson that they had to learn, especially on Earth during this kind of Leo age. They had to learn ego and soul are one, not ego and then, oh, you go back to your soul when you go to sleep, right? There's been a separation between the soul and the ego on this planet. Ego is like you just do whatever you want, right? Just get victory, get success, get money, whatever it is, claim it, make it, demand it, control it. But then when you go to sleep, it's like you get to meet your soul, and you get to unite with your soul love and your twin flame. That life was they lived that kind of life. But now they understand that the ego and the soul must become one. That's where the true spiritual fulfillment comes from. Your soul and your ego are one, and they really are about they're with the twin flame theory. They work with the twin flame path, the twin flame journey, and they work with it through a lot of sexual energy, a lot of creative life force. The twin flame is something you build with each other. It's about spiritual ascension. It's about experience for knowledge, and it's also about building your character up. It's about remembering your origin, and really it's about helping each other come into your integrity in a world that could be lacking integrity, or a world that strips your integrity, a world that will destroy you if you have integrity. So that's kind of what the twin flame journey for them is about. Helping each other be in your integrity so that you can really have that spiritual fulfillment and come into your ascension, which is basically when you die, you are to emerge with your twin flame, and you are to basically be together. You can say when you die, and that kind of thing, and you are to basically share with each other the experience of separation and the experience of union. But you're meant to experience union in the physical. That's why you're separate, because the whole thing about the twin flames through the Lyran being is about you coming together in the physical and experiencing union, what that is like. What is unconditional love? Because in this earth paradigm, that's something that is not, it's we're mostly in a separation consciousness type of behavior. But in the Lyran being sort of systems, the union is this ego and the soul. It's like an elite union. There's intimacy that's very profound, and a lot of Lyran beings remember that, and that's why they really wait for love, or they don't just marry whoever, because they understand that the sacred union is something that is the most special, the most rare that you can have. And it's to improve your bloodline, and also it's for ascension. It's not for paying your bills or that kind of thing. They really take it as a spiritual journey. These type of Lyran beings here on planet Earth, they see it as a part of your ascension, a part of your, your soul tribe. You're working on your lineage, clearing up the bloodline. They really see partnership as clearing up the bloodline. They see it as healing the karmas, healing. They see this relationship is for healing of karma, and they see it as, working with your dharma, right? Nothing less than that. So Lyran beings have a very kind of unique perspective on love and relationship and mating. They see it as, I'm healing the bloodline, I'm healing karma through this partnership. They're really into arranged marriages, you could say, because it's about clearing karma. It's not about creating karma and creating more discord and creating more trauma. It's about clearing the karma and getting smarter, right? And having a partnership, having kind of a connection that will help you restore your integrity, not, keep you in the I am not good enough and low and I hate myself and destroy yourself. It's not about in your comfort zone. It's about having the experience of your soul. And they they see that as the most ecstatic experience. So that is the Lyran being the transmission. Again, I myself I sort of channel these beings because I see myself having originated from the Lyran system, that I believe there are 4 planets, there are 5 systems, and it's just like very deep. So I think I'm gonna end it right here. Yes, I'm feeling the transmission feels complete. Also, oh my gosh, it keeps going. They work with the blue flame. They work with the color of turquoise. They work with turquoise crystal. They work with pearls. Again, organic materials, kind of ocean sort of like. They work with the ocean, the water element as a purification. They heal, so spiritual bath. They work a lot with the water as energy. They work a lot with water flowing through the city, flowing through the community. Water, they have a water kind of like Atlantis. There's like water, like rivers that flow into town, or it's like there's waterfalls everywhere. They live by water. They just have this kind of water, but then they have these kind of crystal sort of, I don't know, flying machines that are energized by water that glide over the water. But they use a lot of this crystallized water. It's like almost spring water. It's like mountain water. It's really pure water, like really like water with like high electric, like high electric water or something like that. With like a electromagnetic kind of current or something to create their sort of anti-levitation devices, or crystallized ships made of like a particular material of crystal that look like literally like crystal balls, or crystal that just kind of like look like suns, because the light reflected on the ships kind of make it look like it's glowing or something, or radiating. It almost like it looks like it's radiating, like it's just a ball of light, but it really is made of a crystal material that has been given light activation. They have a lot of light activation. Their city has major light activation. They work a lot with the sun, so their whole city is fueled by the sun, and light activation, meaning they create buildings, structures, vehicles that have like some sort of crystallized element, or kind of like solar panel stuff, but more advanced, like real crystal, this type of stuff. And the light reflects and it creates this sort of shimmering, almost this shimmering rainbow. Wherever you go, there's like a shimmering rainbow or something from the light emission or something off of these objects from the reflected light of the sun. So there's like this major rainbow shimmering light activation everywhere on the buildings, the structures, the vehicles, because of this technology that they have with water, with the sun, with the crystal sort of reflective, kind of like solar panel type of design. So that's one thing, that last thing I will share with you guys. So thank you for joining me, and may this kind of activate you, and if you believe yourself to be a part of the Lyran being, qualities that you will possess will be fearlessness. You will have a sense of integrity. You will have a sense of character development, like a Taurus, right? This independent mind. You also will have this femme consciousness, or you'll have this sort of goddess type of pursuit, or the creative pursuit, like real, like, Leo type of charisma, we'll say. You'll also could feel like an old soul. You could have a very expansive aura, expansive heart, be very magnetic, like the planet Jupiter. You also could be very, ambiguous, like ethnically, because that's also a Lyran trait. Even ambiguous, like culturally, like, with your mind. Your mind could be very high educated on different cultures, or you could be PhD. A lot of Lyran beings have this sort of higher education, like PhD, master's degree type of thing. Mind, they have like a PhD type of mind. Also, you bring fairness, like a judge, or you could, bring fairness in general. You work with light activation, light code, work with chanting, sound, like sound therapy, dance therapy. You have this sort of, you're very grounded, could be very earthy. You could be very, like, feel a lot of healing with the ocean, with the water, or you could have this emotional type of expression, like you express this sort of emotion that is very profound and very unique, almost very advanced, like an old soul, the way you express your feelings and your emotions. You could even be a counselor, a therapist, for children, and helping them to get their power, and you could also be about claiming power, personal power, bathing in the sun. A lot of Lyran beings bathe in the sun. Light therapy, sound therapy, crystals, when it comes to using crystals to activate the chakras, using crystals in sacred geometry, using crystals like kind of even like creating a sort of a garden of these sort of, architectural sort of crystal designs. And you're very sensual. You can be very sexual in the way that you love to move your energy. You love to move around. You love to explore. You're a pioneer. Your mind is like Jupiter. It's very expansive. You're very connected to animals in the way that you are like a humanitarian or environmentalist. You really like to take care of the animals. You really guard them with, your life. You're very protective. You also have this reverence of animals. You really also really feel tapped into the goddess frequency, which the goddess frequency is the femme consciousness. It really is that sort of spiritual ascension frequency. It's really about the union of man and female and being whole within yourself. So you really are on a path of, you really want to feel whole, and you're very independent. It's almost like you feel very like a powerhouse within your own life force. So you can have a very strong life force within you. You could be very multi-talented, multifaceted. These are kind of traits that really showcase also you could be very virtuous, a lot of craftsmanship, you know, a lot of talent, gift. You just love to, you know, play and like marvel and wonder and dream and, you know, go get and build and manifest and make with your hands and your feet, your eyes, your senses, your instincts. So that's kind of traits of the Lyran beings. So thank you and namaste.